Right. Today it's episode 13, blog number 13. More reminiscences, I'm afraid to say, but they are relevant. In the early 70s, I decided to have a go at doing correspondence courses and had holed myself up in a mansion near Newton Abbot called Hackham House. The landlords were very keen on getting every penny they could out of us tenants, and I didn't stay there for very long. But while I was there, I was offered the use of the swimming pool for raising crayfish. I thought this is a great idea, let's give it a go. So to do this, I had to obviously find out as much as I could, and I got various books which didn't help an awful lot. The first was to find out as much as I could about crustacea in general, and I got this. This is actually a fascinating book. Even though many people have told me, oh, it's out of date, you can't possibly read it. Yes, it may be out of date in terms of nomenclature, but the facts about species is not out of date. When a researcher says a particular species does this or a particular species does that, that is irrefutable. Why it does it may be in question. Anyway, I then got a little bit closer to crustacea. The first one I found was this one by Green, a little bit too general. So then I tried this one, Waldo Schmidt crustaceans, and I didn't get very far about Reptantia, that's the family, crayfish, in particular Astacus, or it's called Astacus asticus now, but it then was called Astacus fluviatalis. Anyway, so I went up to London. I went into the Natural History Museum, as I happened to be a member of the Freshwater Biological Association. This held me in good stead as a kind of accreditation, because my name was in the annual general report of the Freshwater Biological Association, as were all the members. So I asked where I could find information about Astacus fluviatalis, and was sent down to the library. Well, I wasn't sent, I was escorted. The library had massive doors, maybe 15 feet high, I seem to remember, and in them was another door which you went through, and there was the library itself. Well, it didn't seem anything very spectacular, but the walls had books going up 20 feet. The walls had books going up 20 feet or more. The librarian asked me what I was looking for. I told her. She said, well, looking it up, have you read Green? Have you read Schmidt? Have you read, and she named several others, and I'd actually borrowed them from the library. Yes. So she said, well, can you read Russian? I said, no. French? Nope. German? Nope. Then she put me through to the reference library, which was at the back of the main library, and it was a little room, I seem to remember, and with a mezzanine floor with books. But again, I was asked if I'd read the books I'd read. Then the librarian said, well, we have to put you through to the crustaceanology department. Maybe they can help. So telephone calls were made, and the next thing is I was introduced to a gentleman in a white coat and two of his assistants. He was the head of crustaceanology department. And the next thing is I was escorted to this guy's laboratory. It had been explained to me that he was away, but I was welcome to peruse his files. So I did, and I couldn't find any information on growing or feeding or anything. But I did find a fascinating pamphlet on the red-spotted crab of the Polynesias, which is delicious to eat, but on occasion turns extremely poisonous. Anyway, I spent a wonderful day there looking through the files and reading all kinds of strange stuff. And then that ended the day. But I decided today to have a look through scientific papers to see if I could find anything about growing, cultivating crayfish, freshwater crayfish. And the AI was able to pull out quite a lot, actually. Scientific and technical sources. FAO, crayfish aquaculture in Europe. This is the single best overview of Asticus asticus culture method, waste requirement, diseases, production systems, etc. Nordic Council of Ministers. The crayfish in Nordic countries. Reports from Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, including plague management and broodstock handling. Then names of various people. This is actually quite lengthy research. I was very pleased that the AI was able to find it. Who is actually doing it today? The UK is one of the few places where Asticus asticus is still farmed in small numbers, not commercially large scale, but real functioning operations. Ooh, there's a crayfish company in Wales. There's the Southwest Crayfish Project in Devon. Primarily conservation. This is interesting because the River Culm in Devon is actually overrun with crayfish, but I believe it's the American one. Midlands Crayfish Farms. Yes, Norway is difficult, but the temperature is not the problem. The real barriers, strict biosecurity laws. You have to have permits and all kinds of things, and the bureaucracy makes it almost impossible. Anyway, that's interesting because this is another issue which has come up, the bureaucracy in Norway. We will talk about that later because it's actually been used in the reverse very successfully. Anyway, it gives me a list of people I could actually contact. Then I asked about the 1970s. Crayfish farming in Britain didn't exist in any organised form before the mid-1970s. So there we are. It's quite likely that the laboratory I spent some time in was from a man who was researching this. Scandinavian influence in the UK in the 70s. Swedish and Finnish researchers were already farming crayfish in the 60s, 70s. Their manuals circulated informally in the UK. Interesting. Anyway, the laboratory The laboratory, my AI had a go at finding the owner, and he reckoned, whoa, and he reckoned it may have been, paper's gone. All right, anyway, still, it was inordinate fun visiting the Natural History Museum because it was so vast, so Gothic. The entrance hall, the little desk, and then walking down this rather obscure corridor with virtually nothing in it, just very posh surroundings, and coming to this massive door and being accorded a degree of importance which had never really happened before. I knew the names, I'd read the books, and as a result I was greeted and talked to with civility and interest. So that was a remarkable thing for me. Anyway, that's blog number 13. GoPro stop capture.